Well, it's time to have a look through the papers for you this morning with religious commentator Vicky Beeching and Deputy Editor of The Express, Michael Booker. Morning, one and all.
Good morning.
That's it. It's like the panel of glamour this morning.
Oh,
yeah. We'll start, Vicky, with, because obviously we know a lot of work that you do is actually based around social media and what have you. You've picked up this story in The Times about the Twitter trolls who were jailed yesterday.
Yeah, so I've been speaking quite a lot on this in the last day or so. This is really interesting. So a man and woman have actually been jailed for the abusive tweets that were sent, mainly to the feminist campaigner Caroline Criado-Perez. Also, one of the trolls sent some abuse to Stella Creasy as well. And it's very interesting to see them actually get prison sentences. They're only short, 12 weeks and 8 weeks and £400 fine. But to me, this is really, really sending a great message that what happens online is very real, that the virtual world is not the Wild West, it's not off limits. And seeing the traumatic impact this has had on my friend Caroline and having received some Twitter abuse myself, I think this is great. We've got to really clamp down and say you can't get away with it just because you're on a device hiding behind a screen. You have to pay the price for the abuse that you
Why do people feel, then, for all the work that you've done in this area, why do people feel that when they're on their tablet or their phone or what have you, that they can just say whatever they like?
Well, it's interesting, I think, because a lot of the social media companies have sprung up out of America. They've come with a sort of feeling of free speech. You know, that's such a big part of the states, the right of the individual to say what they want. And I think some of that sort of trickled down, and a lot of responses online to this sentencing have actually been, even from British people, saying this is the end of free speech. It's over. We've lost our ability to have an opinion, and that's really not what it is at all. This is not about free speech. This is about remembering that just because you can't see the consequences of your actions when you type it into a device or a laptop, that device, isn't actually preventing you from committing a crime. That crime is still valid.
Yeah. And a lot of these things in real life, you know, for instance, with Stan Collymore, if he received that racist abuse on the street, that's illegal.
Yeah, it is. And just because it's virtual doesn't mean it's not real.
The thing with these two, looking at them and reading about them, these two in particular, I don't think, I hear what you say about the free speech coming from America and things like that. These were just two thick-headed idiots looking at it. You know, I think one of them's got a drink problem, the other one never leaves the house. I think there is that keyboard hero thing where people just sat on the room on their own, just I'm powerful all of a sudden.
Exactly.
And they think they can get away with it, and this shows you can't. But I was reading yesterday from a piece on the internet from America, and they were just quite taken aback because of the free speech thing, saying, well, yeah, these are horrible things they're saying, but to go to prison for it? And so in America, people looking at this thing, well, this seems an odd thing, but at the same time, you see the effect it's had on Caroline, and you think, well, yeah, a spell in prison might wake them up. But looking at these two, I don't think it will, to be honest.
They do need to realise, don't they? It's interesting, in the defence, actually, defending the girl who was the troll, her defence lawyer actually said she was a victim of the technology because she didn't really realise how powerful it was. And, I mean, I think that's a complete stretch, and I don't believe it, but I think there is an element where we don't really understand the power we have holding these devices. We can broadcast to the world. Hopefully this will help people know we've got to be responsible.
They did look a bit thick.
Well,
they did.
We're not
and that's part of it, isn't it? Well, that is part of it. No, some people are stupid.
Don't realise it. Yeah, but see, we get tweets from a lot of people who seem to have some common sense. But again, they can have an abusive tone, and they don't realise that actually when you sat there reading it and someone's
But I think we
horrible.
must be wary of claiming that all these people are on the fringes of society, because one of the things that Stan Collymore was saying is that two of his abusers were studying law and, you know,
uprising, surprising people, can't it?
Citizens,
kind of develop this online persona, sort of a strange new world. Anybody can do it. You know, any of us could fall into that.
Well, we don't want to get pushy online. We can get pushy when we go to the GP, Michael, from the Telegraph.
Well, yes, you read a headline, there's be pushy with your GP to get the best drug. This has come from Professor David Haslam. He's the chairman of National Institute of Health and Care Excellence, NICE. He says there's loads of patients who aren't getting the drugs that they need, and people should say, when they go to the GP, oi, I know more about my condition than you, is effectively what he's saying. He says that we should research more about what's wrong with us, and we should find out what drugs have been approved. We should then demand these drugs from our GPs. But, well, one, you've got to demand to get to see a GP, first of all, to get in the door. Now we've been told we've got to start telling doctors that we know better, and I think...
Do you not go along with that, then?
Well, I don't know, because, I mean, I think it's good to know what you're supposed... You know, a vague idea of what's wrong with you, and particularly people who go to the GP may not be suffering from the more serious things. If you've already got a serious condition, like cancer or something like that, you don't go and see your GP about it. Well, you do at the first stop, but not when you're seriously suffering. So when you go to see a GP and start demanding, right, I think I've got this, I want those drugs, I think things like this, advice like this, isn't particularly helpful for GPs. You know, I know there's a lot of people who aren't particularly sympathetic with GPs.
This is their worst nightmare.
Yeah.
People that have just been trawling the internet and they come in with a list saying, I think I've got this and I think I need this, you know.
You're totally right. And it's interesting they're saying we need more of an American attitude, because having lived over there for almost a decade, the health system over there is so different. You are actually a customer because it's private and you're paying. So you can afford to be pushy because you're actually saying, if you don't give me a good service, I'll go elsewhere. Whereas here we don't have that situation.
Well, he said he was a doctor in Cambridge near an American Air Force base, and says Americans used to come in, get a bit lippy, and they'd give them any old drugs because they knew exactly what they wanted. They were scared of Americans, particularly from an air base. Whereas the English one said, thank you, doctor, I'll take that. And, you know, that's the attitude we do have a lot of times. But maybe we should be a bit more pushy.
I'm not pushy, but when I go to the GP, because I'm very health aware, I know what I want.
Yeah.
And I do tend to get it. You can't insist on it, obviously, but you can make a case for it.
You can. And the internet really has changed that, hasn't it? We've got the power now to go on all these websites and find out. And I guess there is some responsibility on us, but we're not qualified, are we?
Exactly.
Really?
At the end of the day, we're not GPs ourselves, and we have to remember that.
Did you see that?
Look, back in your box.
I know. But you see, I tweeted about it actually in the week that because of my diabetes, a lot of the drugs that I'm on are actually prescribed by my specialist at the hospital, but dispensed by the GP. And then you've got to go to the GP for a review, and someone said to me last week, "Well, we think we can keep you on that insulin." Well,
I can't imagine you being pushy at the GP. You seem so lovely.
You probably know more about it than him.
I have my moments, Vicky, I'm afraid to say. I try and always keep it nice and flat. I try not to get stroppy ever. I want to talk about Olympic outfits, if we can. This is in the Times, page 4. Bad Olympic outfits.
This is amazing. So the outfits for the Sochi Olympic kind of team kits have been unveiled, and this is basically This is basically a lesson in the fact that you are somewhat restricted by the colours of your national flag, and that could be unfortunate for you. So Norway here we're looking at with the red, white, and blue chevrons. I don't know if you'd fancy going out in front of the world wearing that, but it's been described as a parade of horrors. And I really feel sorry for the athletes. You know, you train hard, this is a chance of a lifetime, you have to look like a complete nonce.
The American one's quite nice.
Here's the American one.
Yeah, it's got a slightly preppy look there with a sort of like a Ralph Lauren
so some of them
cardigan going on there.
That one is just horrific.
You want to look back at some special pictures, don't you, if you've been?
Imagine having to
showing
wear
your
that.
grandkids.
I mean, really. Like,
I was the one in the yellow duffel coat.
Dear me.
It's not looking
Dear
good.
Me, but that one,
it's not good.
He reminds me of what was he called? Timmy Mallet or something.
That could honestly be like a screen warning for people that you'd actually have to kind of look away if you can't deal with patterns.
90s Norwegian boy band.
Honestly, it's a bit scary. It really is.
Very
Michael, this is in. This works for both of you, doesn't it? Noah's Ark. It was round. We've got blueprints.
Apparently so. Really? Some fella walked into the British Museum a few years ago with a tablet of stone, and it dated back to 1850 BC, apparently. And it's been deciphered by Dr. Irvin Finkel, who looks like a brilliant historian and is exactly what a historian should look like. He's got an enormous beard and looks a bit like Noah himself.
Yes.
Now, he's deciphered it. He's basically worked out that the instructions for Noah's Ark showed it was about half the size of a football pitch. Couldn't get all the animals under the sun onto it. You could get quite a few onto it. It was 18 foot high. Sorry, 2/3 the size of a football pitch. If it had been built, and they are building it now for a Channel 4 TV programme, it would have sank. So all the animals would have all got on there, and then it would have sank. And basically what he's saying is that it was just basically a warning to all the Babylonians about how badly they've treated the Earth. So this message was put around to say, look, we might need this one day because you lot aren't looking after things as well. Just like we are now with all the floods we're getting, maybe we should build another one. Climb in it.
It does seem quite relevant at the moment, doesn't it?
It does, but it's interesting because obviously we've never had any proof that Noah's Ark was anything other than a biblical fable.
They've
been looking for it, haven't they?
They've excavated Turkey for years and it's really proved fruitless. But to me, I think a lot of people would use that as evidence that the Bible isn't true. And I see a lot of these things actually as stories and kind of pictures, like, you know, Adam and Eve. I don't actually believe Adam and Eve were the first two people who were created. And I think if you get really fixated on the stories and the details, you miss the point that actually
it's the message, isn't it?
It's symbolic, I think.
It's just a big salad bowl.
But it's quite a cool idea that they did all get on a boat.
With cows in.
Yeah, big salad bowl. There'd be a big blockbuster movie in there somewhere if it hadn't already been made. Lovely. We're going to take a short break. Back with you in just a moment. So we're looking at the papers with Vicky and with Michael, and I'll tell you what, the Mirror gets my vote for the day for the headline. 99 Wine calls. Love it. Great ones, Vicky, that you picked out here.
Classic. So we all know that the emergency services struggle to kind of keep up with the multitude of need that's out there, but this is a little highlight on some of the most ridiculous things that people call up to report. So calling 999, you'd think it would need to be serious. Genuine callers calling up to say that their laptop password has slipped their mind. They can't get into their computer. Could they possibly help? Somebody else saying, I've lost my glasses, I'm trying to do my lunch and I can't see the potatoes. Somebody else phoned up in the window to say, my snowman has been stolen. And my very favourite one of all, a man rang up to say, my wife won't bring me any dinner.
No.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what they thought the emergency services were going to provide, but clearly in every case they've said, hello, we're 999, like, we're oversubscribed, please don't call us. But, you know, if you've lost your laptop password,
I mean, the fact that they feel they have to say, I'm sorry, but I really can't take this. It's not an emergency because your wife won't give you anything to eat.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I love this one, Devon and Cornwall. I've run out of toilet roll.
I wonder if it was after the event, or I wonder where he sat at the time.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. That's called the birth of the mobile phone. It's like, hello, I'm on the loo.
Lovely. It's just absolutely
just wouldn't
scary,
believe it, unless
isn't
it was actually in the paper.
But this is all spurred on by the hello, I want to report a crime, Man United.
Yeah. Look at this, sticking on the police theme, actually. The police car hitting 140 miles an hour.
Yes, he was...
a bit of showing off.
Well, yeah, a criminal had been nicked by a policeman, and as they were being driven from Leeds to Darlington, the criminal said, this is a fast car. How fast can it go? It's 140 mile an hour. Do you want me to show you? Yes, please, Mr. Officer. So he did. He drove at 140 mile an hour. Then the criminal thought, right, and he reported him to the police. So the policeman has now been done for misconduct. He's had his driving licence suspended, and he's going to have to pass a full reassessment before returning to duties. So,
I suppose that's probably right, is it?
Oh, of course, yeah. Driving 140 mile an hour on the motorway. Anyone else?
Anyone else? I know. Please, they are. I'm sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place because I know quite a few police officers. I know quite a few are watching this morning, but they wouldn't behave like that, I'm sure. Guys, thank you. We shall see you in an hour for more. You're not getting away lightly this morning. A reminder, actually, you can have a look at